In this video, I'll be installing the hard race adjustable rear control arms that will replace my rusty stock ones, which prevented me to do a wheel alignment after installing my new coilovers. Along with the control arms, I'll also need some extra parts like the alignment bolts, the alignment washers, and alignment nuts. I'll put a link to the control arms and all the extra needed parts in the description. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and let's head inside Sunside Tuning's garage to do some work. First off, we need to raise the car. Next, remove the nut and take off the rear wheels. After that, we raise the car a little bit more to gain a bigger working space, as it can get quite challenging. This is my old control arm, and we can see that it has seen better days, but a problematic part is this nut, as it was impossible to adjust the alignment because one was stuck and the other snapped. Next up, we have to remove the headlight leveling sensor on the driver's side arm. Remove the nut, take out the leveling arm, and reattach the nut back on the arm so you won't lose it. When done, put it out of the way, like this. Time to spray the bolts with some WD-40 or equivalent and let it sit for a bit. It's also important that we spray inside the small holes on the nut that go all the way inside the bolt. We tried to remove the nut with a torque gun, but it was putting up quite a fight. But after heating it up with a blowtorch, it finally came loose. This is the bolt on which the nut snapped. In case the nut would be still on, the removal process would be the same with a torque gun or breaker bar. Now spray the nut holding the stabilizer link. Do this on both sides. This hole was a bit worn, so we used a key that is 1 millimeter bigger and hammered it inside. Use a wrench to hold the Allen key steady and another one to loosen up the nut. It might take a while, but do it slowly and patiently. When done, take out the nut and push out the link. Screw the nut back on so you won't lose it. Next, spray the nut holding the lower side of the control arm and take it out. If the arm comes out with ease, just pull it with your hand to get it loose. If it's hard or stubborn, spray the bolt that's sticking out and use a ball joint splitter to safely separate the arm from the bracket. Now it's time to loosen up the bolt holding the arm. Use a ratchet and start unscrewing the bolt, and at the same time use a hammer and piece of metal to hammer out the thread where the nut was. Eventually, the nut will come out and you can take off the arm. And this is my old control arm. Very rusty, dirty, and not ideal for a safe drift car. The next arm was a bit stiffer. We had to move it forward and backwards to break it loose, but it wouldn't give in. We tried to hammer out the bolt like before, but it just wouldn't move at all. So we've put back the lower part of the arm, secured it with its nut, protected the coilovers and surroundings with a special thick blanket, and after that it was time to cut the bolt. More specifically, the internal part of the bolt on both sides. After a long session of cutting, it was finally time to remove the lower nut and take out the control arm. Here you can see exactly where the bolt was cut, and these are the two pieces that came off on each side. Time for a quick visual comparison between the original control arm and the hard race ones. Next, measure the old arms from the center circle on the top part to the center part of the circle of the bottom part, like you see here. In our case, it's 53 centimeters. Measure the same distance on your new arms. The distance here is 52 centimeters, so we have to make it longer by 1 centimeter. So now it's time to release the top silver head and make the arm longer. We undid it a little bit on the lower side and a little bit on the upper silver side. When done, measure it again, and if it's the same as the OEM one, tighten the two nuts to make it nice and secure. Do the same for the other one. The left one is the one with two brackets on it, so don't mix them up. Now it's time to spray some primer where we cut off the bolt, and we'll also do the same on the other side so it won't get rusty. So this bolt with the washer already attached is the front bolt, which means it goes in like this. On the rear side, you put this washer, which has two lumps, a larger one and a smaller one. The bolt also has a smaller hole and a larger hole, so the larger one goes on top and the smaller one on the bottom. It goes in only one way. If you put it the other way, it won't go on. To avoid having the same rust issue in the future, we've covered the smooth part of the bolts with grease. Next, position the blue part of the arm in place, insert the bolt from the front side with the dots on the washer facing up. Make sure that the bolt on the silver part of the arm is facing outward towards the wheels. On the rear side, position the washers so that the dots are also facing up, and then screw the nut in place. Do this on both sides of the car. Just remember that the left arm is the one with the additional bracket for the headlight leveling sensor. Next up, insert the bolt part of the arm in place, but don't screw on the nut just yet, as you will see that the nut falls inside the hole where the bolt goes in, and the OEM one did not. So to avoid any disasters, we've used the old nut as it fits perfectly and safely. Tighten it just by hand for now. Next, position the leveling arm in the bracket, screw on the nut and tighten it with your ratchet. Before we put on the stabilizer link, we've rethreaded the bolt so that we won't struggle to remove it in the future. Next, hold the bolt in place with a wrench and tighten the nut on the other side with a ratchet or torque gun. Do this on both sides. Insert the nut on the stabilizer link and tighten it with a ratchet. Next up, tighten the two old nuts holding the lower bolt of the arm with your ratchet until it's nice and tight. Do this on both sides. Time to put on the rear wheels, lower the car and see how it feels. After installing new control arms or suspension for that matter, you must get a wheel alignment in order for the car to perform as it should and also for it to be safe. That's it for this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and as always, all mentioned parts will be linked in the description, and feel free to check out more Rx8 videos on my channel.